Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to North Shore Live Cooper's Corner. We are live this evening. It is March, cold, March 12th, 2014. And I hope that you didn't get snowed in or anything. There was about 5 to 7 inches of snow, heavy, that came down. But we shoveled it off, and now it's just going to get cold tonight. I hope no more snow. I think we have had our limit with snow, and you know, I think that for all intents and purposes, I don't want to see any Christmas decorations until maybe a year from this Christmas, because some people have not even been able to get out of their houses to take down their Christmas decorations as we pass through the suburbs. They've been all snowed in and under, and lights and trees and everything. So bear with it, because this is Illinois, and you know, we got big wind here in Illinois. And the wind will come and disperse all the snow and blow it east. And they'll get ours things. But spring is on its way. Only 2 more weeks of this month or so, and it'll be April. You know, we need to have sunshine and warmth and a feeling to return back to humanity, because I don't like living in an igloo. It's pretty hard. And I'm sure that you understand the situation. But a situation to understand, to beat the band, was when I attended with others at the ARDC yesterday regarding Joanne Dennison, who is an attorney, a patent attorney. And she has a blog, and she was sitting blogging in a probate court room, and it happened that the judge didn't like Joanne blogging, and Joanne blogs beautifully and quickly too. We don't have to wait for a stenographer or anything, and she gets every word in and doesn't make up anything. And so the situation came about that the judge did not want Joanne to blog and took away her computer, and that's how this all got started. And then they had her before the ARDC, which is Attorneys Registration and Disciplinary Commission. That's it here in Illinois. ARDC, whatever. So yesterday was very exciting, because this is not the first. We've been down before. And so we're hoping that they make a fair and appropriate decision, because Joanne's First Amendment rights, as well as Ken Ditkowsky's, they were violated. The Constitution of the United States of America, the Constitution of the state of Illinois, and the word corruption seems to be creeping up in every place that you look. So for information, this is a situation that everyone needs to know about, everyone. So without any further ado, I'm going to read some things here, but I want to introduce you to my guests that you must know already by heart. To my direct left is Joanne Dennison, who scampered through everything to get down here on time to be on the air. And to Joanne's direct left is Ken Ditkowsky. And welcome, both of you. And you are a wonderful voice for the innocent. For the innocent, you are protecting the innocent, and you need to be applauded for your daringness, your honor, your integrity, because that's what you are. You're honorable, you have integrity, you have honesty, you have forthright, you are people that are concerned about the innocent, and they can be anyone, but in the probate court, we're talking about the dead, the dying, the disabled, senior citizens that are being railroaded as though they were being shipped off to a concentration camp and never heard of again. So I'm not going to take this alone. Help me carry this, you guys. Joanne, you want to speak up and say about yesterday?
Well, I was in trial for 2 days, as you know.
Yes.
It was very, very interesting. I learned a lot of things this time from the ARDC tribunal, and basically what the chair, whose name is Sang-Yul Lee, is,
Mr.
he
Lee.
taught me that they really don't like it when attorneys use the word corruption.
Oh.
He was extremely concerned that many of the posts that honestly talked about what goes on in the probate court, proceedings with lack of jurisdiction. If you look at the record, there's no summons on the person who's going to be a judge disabled. They don't let the elderly sisters know. But he thought it was more important to make sure that my blogs don't use the tag corruption on them. That was very important to him. And they were also very concerned about the fact, they put it up on the screen, the ARDC did this, showing the name of Jane Louise Stewart and corruption, and all of my blog posts showed up. And that was really concerning to them, and they felt that that was definitely going to be a great reason to discipline me. But of course, as everybody knows or should know, a tag is only an invitation to come and read a particular part of the internet. And if you probably Google my name with corruption, you probably get a lot of posts, but then you can actually click on those posts and read about who I am and what I do. They can also read about Jane Louise Stewart, all of the proceedings, I put up the pleadings, the evidence, all that type of stuff, the good and the bad, it goes up there, I publish it right away. But the ARDC was very concerned that I was talking negatively about a certain court proceeding in which we simply can't find any evidence of the summons and complaint. Mary G. Sykes was never properly served, and I think Ken did a lot of the legwork.
Yeah, you did the research on there.
The part of her trial I liked the best. I didn't attend her trial because I was disqualified because I had a conflict of interest. I'm not sure what that conflict of interest is.
I was going to say to you, what would that possibly be?
Well, that's a mystery. I think what they were intending to do was to prevent Joanne from having a lawyer, and they don't particularly care about her Sixth Amendment right, because I was never called as a witness. They indicated they might, but they of course wouldn't. Especially they wouldn't call a witness after they made the statement, after I think it was Melissa Smart,
Yes.
who made the statement that comparing Joanne's blog to calling fire in a crowded movie theater.
Yeah.
And of course that's not only absurd, it was kind of interesting that a couple days before, the Third Circuit Court in Philadelphia dealt with a case involving some young seventh graders who had breast cancer shirts. It said something like "I love boobies," and the school administration barred that. And the circuit court said the kids have a right to free speech. So we now come to the dichotomy of a lawyer can't wear a shirt that says "I love boobies," but a 7-year-old can.
A seventh grader can.
The whole situation, and this concept of fire in a crowded movie theater was a statement that was made by Justice Holmes, which he subsequently backed down on it because the right of free speech is so very important, and the blog that she has is so very important. And Congress thought it was so important that they passed a law, which is I think 47 U.S.C. 230, which protects the blogger, and they don't bother. The ARDC isn't worried about that. They are very, very concerned that a lawyer may criticize a judge. Under the theory they're prosecuting Joanne and me, the U.S. attorney who prosecuted the Graylord case is guilty of exactly the same thing. So when you come down to it, you got discrimination. It's all right to take a little old lady who's 90 years old and steal her money, destroy her liberty, but it's not all right for a lawyer to say, "Hey, that's wrong."
That's wrong. You know, you brought up Graylord, and a little earlier, just speaking here. And that must have been absolutely devastating on the judiciary in Cook County, because when I heard that yesterday, Joanne, the attorney for Joanne, asked about that. She gave point-by-point description, and it was terrific. It was like they didn't want to know about it. They didn't want to hear about it, but that Joanne was too knowledgeable about it, so we have to do something about it. I mean, I was sitting in the front seat, and if I could have stood up to cheer, I would have done it, because she was remarkable, absolutely remarkable. And I hope that they're all watching this evening, or if you're not watching this evening, you'll get it on the YouTube. We'll put the YouTube number down here so you can
Well,
see
you can
that.
mail it to them.
Well, there's the YouTube thing, YouTube.
He's just gonna put it on YouTube.
And we're going to put this on
Excellent.
YouTube, and the world will see it and hear what we have to say. So, we need to tell you that the public also wants to know what's going on. And Joanne was very clear to point that, in her opinion, the public had a right to know what goes on in the probate courts and how they function, and it is necessary for an American citizen to be able to uphold their constitutional rights without having them violated by judge or any agent thereof from the court, because they want to play, we'll make our own rules and you have to abide by it. That's just not appropriate, not for a judge. And we hold you, judges, to a higher esteem and appropriateness than to be that on a common ground. That's if John Q. Public didn't know, then his excuse is he doesn't know. But that you went to school, you've been in this profession, you should know. You cannot take away someone's rights to free speech and the Constitution. And Joanne, that was remarkable. So if you would be kind enough to reiterate for our viewing public, we're live this evening and it's going to go on YouTube, but let them know about Graylord, because your attorney said, she said, what is Graylord and who were the judges and what happened to it? And you just...
She opened the Pandora's box.
You just reeled it right off.
And I said Graylord was one of the first operations by the FBI going back to 1980 to 1985, in which 117 attorneys, sitting judges, and police officers were indicted. Of those 117 persons who were indicted, 17 sitting judges went to federal prison, 48 lawyers went to federal prison, and the rest of the people died, retired, or surrendered their law licenses. It was a tragedy, but one of the things that the FBI lamented is that they could not and would not be going after the upper level courts, and they had information that they were just as bad, and they wanted to get into probate, chancery, and law division for the larger cases. And one of the nice things about what I'm doing, reporting on what's going on in probate and the tens of thousands of dollars that are falling off of inventories every year, or accountings every year, millions of dollars, as you know, are falling off of inventories.
Millions.
And the court looks the other way. I know you weren't here for this, but at the end of everything, the tribunal talked to me closely about the corruption, and I revealed most of it, of what I know at this point. I said they're not passing envelopes of cash around. What they're doing is I'm finding highly suspect property records, which was really kind of funny because I looked at the chair's property records and they didn't look all that great. And I really want to do more investigation. I don't have the funds, I don't have the ability, but I did talk about all these things that were going on. We had investigated, we're still investigating. I don't have the staff or everything I need to do this, but I would like to get more into this corruption. And these people who are doing this, who are railroading little old ladies and grandmas and grandpas and the disabled into nursing homes that are connected and tied in, and they're forced away from their families, this has got to stop. I don't care if these people go to jail or whatever they do. I want them off the bench. They need to do something else. The attorneys who are participating in this, I just heard of an estate where, as far as I can tell, recently, and I warned the poor son caretaker, $600,000 to $800,000 in fees out of the probate court on the 18th floor, a Park Ridge family, 20 months gone. This is what's going on. And I reported that to the tribunal. And the only thing that they cared about was making sure that my blog wasn't talking about it.
Well, I'm, you know, we're a cable studio here, and we're open to the public at any time, and this is free speech, and we do have free speech, and we go back with many years with
But
that.
what you need is a honest, intelligent, complete, and comprehensive investigation of these cases. We could start with your mother's case.
Yeah, that would
$1.5 million disappeared,
gone.
gone. They even mined her teeth for the
Gold.
few pennies of gold.
29 gold teeth pulled.
Gone. Yeah, pulled. They pulled her teeth.
Just absolutely amazing. The Sykes case is another one. Not only they go after a 90-year-old lady, but they went after the daughter and have shut her up. Basically, have tried to push her out of the state.
You know, to make her look as she's a criminal. It's a
Yeah,
criminal.
they make
criminal element.
what they do is they make the family look like a bunch of nuts. And of course, people find a tremendous amount of pressure in litigation. They find a particular amount of pressure when they are the
Victims.
I was before the ARDC, Joanne before the ARDC,
Yes.
and the situation is there's stress. Anytime you're involved
Sure.
in any stress. Now,
Any litigation is stressful.
I happen to be in a particularly favorable position for me. I'm one day younger than God, and therefore, what are you gonna do for me? I'll come back and haunt you if you
That's
bother
right.
me long enough.
People
you
are
will, too.
and people are
And I
afraid of
will.
that. People are afraid of that. You know, Mr. Larkin, when his name was brought up, I mean that brought immediate, to the forefront of my mind. Mr. Larkin, that's Jerry Larkin. I know Jerry Larkin. 35 years. 37 years.
Really?
We go back. Oh yeah, absolutely. We go back to the Larkin home in Elgin because a very dear friend of ours, we were with the vocal at that point. It was victims of child abuse laws, because that's what they snafu'd my daughter on, my mentally ill daughter, Kimmy. They were trying to make money on her. They tried.
So Larkin is tied into the nursing home industry.
Well, we don't know about the nursing home, but in the childhood era at that point with DCFS.
And how about the Larkin Hospital in Miami that's been subject to so much?
This I don't know, but Larkin name in Elgin is very big. Every other street, every other house, every other building has got, Larkin building, Larkin this, Larkin library. It was a very large, a very wealthy family, and the fact that he wants to start his life at the age of 19. When you look about Jerome Larkin, it starts when he's 19. Well, how about what about his mother and father? Where did he grow up? It doesn't say that, which is very suspect. And
But we're suing him for violation of our civil. Joanne and I are suing him for violation of our civil rights and the manner in which we've been treated. We certainly have First Amendment rights just like everybody else. If I want to wear "I love boobies" T-shirt, Mr. Larkin is not going to tell me I can't, and not going to take my license away without a fight.
Well, Mr. Larkin at that point was a young man. We were all young at one time, and
Not me. I was
well,
born
of
in
course you were, and he gave my friend and I a tour of the Larkin home. It was called the Larkin Children's Home, and that had a very bad rap. It had changed names 3 or 4 times. Wow. Things went on there, you don't want to know, or maybe you do want to know, or maybe our viewers want to know. But Jerome Larkin was running it, and he looks the very same.
kidding.
No, no, he looks the very same today as he looked then. I said, I would recognize him in a heartbeat. That's Jerome Larkin. That's Jerry Larkin. And we have to tell our viewers that Jerome Larkin is the administrator, the new, they elect him or they appoint him?
He's appointed.
He's appointed, the new appointed administrator of the ARDC. Hello, we know all these people. See, you live long enough.
It's a very small world.
You live long enough, what goes around
You can
comes
run,
out.
but you can't hide.
That's right. We know him. And her two children, her niece and nephew, I mean, that was trumped up charges. And we went down with her because she had nobody else to go down there with her. And what a wonderful, wonderful family. The husband was a professor at Malcolm X College. She's a school superintendent in Chicago for many years. I mean, outstanding people. And they railroaded these two little kids. You know, it was really bad.
So the patterns continue
oh,
for
yes,
many,
and so,
many years.
Yes, and so I know Jerry Larkin.
This is the reason we do need
I mean,
an honest investigation.
He can't hide his past. I mean, you know, if he was green, he could paint himself white, or if he was orange.
Well, you can't paint him bad for what his family did.
No. This is not. But what he particularly is a part of, this can be attacked and looked into. It could be looked into. Now, there's some papers I have, which is very interesting because you talked about the Graylord at that point, and it says Mr. Larkin should stand to testify about his position regarding, or that is unethical for lawyers to complain about judicial corruption. And here are some names about judicial corruption. I'm sorry, I have to laugh about this. But by the way, you should know that the judge that was assaulting me, I never was allowed to speak in court. She would never allow me to speak. That's ex-judge Lynn Kawamoto. She took off like a scared rabbit. Poof. She's out of Illinois and she's in Texas. I don't know what she thinks she's going to do there. But, you know, you can run, but you can't hide. Doesn't make a difference where you go. And, I mean, she absconded. You know, we don't know what she did directly. But I know that she gave the GAL, at one time it was Miriam Solo, and Miriam Solo was the one that gave the okay to have my mother's teeth pulled. Miriam Solo also was the one who denied me to see my mother for 10 months.
Isn't she the one who had that problem in Florida? I can't think of the name of the state. Start with an F.
Another state.
Oh, yes, Faskowitz, yes.
Yeah.
She took his money, claiming that it was her money.
She inserted herself into a will, forged will, I think.
Yes, absolutely.
And the Attorney General, I think...
said, don't give her the money because she has no connection with that family.
Yeah, she's quite a famous guardian around here.
We want her in an orange jumpsuit with silver bracelets. They're really, what are they, stainless steel? Whatever.
Yeah, stainless steel.
Well, that's what they did to Gloria Sykes. She went in there and she wouldn't tell them where her money was, so they chained her to a chair.
Well, I made a complaint here in Lake County and told a judge that he was a blight on society, and they locked me up. and that was my free speech, and they put me in handcuffs.
Well, in court, you can't say it. The judge is captain of the court.
He was hysterical. He twirled around his chair, and he got his robe caught in the chair. And they called in Lake County Sheriff, and they arrested me and put me in handcuffs and put me with 4 black girls, and we went in the paddy wagon down to the jail. They fingerprinted me, mugshot me. Because I said, I'm here for my daughter, my mentally ill daughter, Kimmy. And he said, why don't you just do what everybody tells you? I said, well, I'm her mother, and I know her better than anybody knows her. And she's ill, and you're allowing her to make a decision that will be with her the rest of her life. And the decision that Judge Block gave her, he is deceased. Young man, 50 years old. I guess having me in court.
Yeah, you did it. You did it,
I,
Bev.
I'm sorry.
Is
I'm
it
sorry.
Block or Black?
Block.
Oh.
Yeah, Bill Block. He, I said, you're allowing a mentally ill child to make a decision on her family whether to see them or not for the rest of her life. She was, 13 years old at the time? And I said, you're a blight on society. How could you do that? You can't let a child who is ill like that. And then I was in jail for about 8 hours. They couldn't find me. The Block sent down a word for everybody to look for Cooper. Where is she? They took my earrings. I couldn't get my wedding ring off. I mean, this thing's been on my finger for 48 years. How are they going to try to get it off? I was right across of the bullpen. That's really an interesting thing. I was the only female locked up across of the bullpen. They must have had 50 guys in there if they had one. And I mean, that was an education. And that's thanks to Lake County. And this daughter of mine was part of a double murder on top of it at the age of 7 in Chicago. Part of a double murder because political influences here wanted to get her and have her actually have her adopted. She was in all the agencies you could imagine, and they gave big money, $25,000 to have my daughter adopted. A white, pure white child, blue eyes, blonde hair, dimples. She looked like Shirley Temple. And she was really adorable, but ill. And, the court themselves did a psychiatric on her, and they couldn't believe what they were hearing and read.
The Prince Patria situation in Cook and Lake County was very difficult because they didn't have enough workers. One social worker that I ran across had as many as 700
cases.
Cases she had to supervise.
Well,
and to get a case heard, you practically had to call the mayor.
Well, the state's attorney that we had, assistant state's attorney, the state's attorney was Michael Waller. That's number one. But the assistant state's attorney was Gail Tular-Friedman, who wanted to be a judge. And at that time, years ago, we're talking 35 years ago, Lake County was very heavily Republican. And Gail Tular-Friedman and her husband were Democratic captains for the Democratic Party. She wanted to be the Democratic judge in Lake County. And the only way that she could make it was to have a collar and assault us as parents for this child who was just out of control. She was really berserk. Her behavior, we had every famous physician, Dr. Robert Mendelsohn, in Evanston, he said, come to my home, I must see her. And we talked with him, and he saw her, and he said, she is so ill. We had all this information. They didn't want to hear about it, but we have documentation. The long and the short of it is that we go back with all of these agencies. DCFS, I sat on their board for 10 years. They made me part of the Juvenile Justice Task Force with DCFS. And I think Greg Kohler was in then. And then after Greg Kohler came Johnson. And I think, who was governor at that time? I think it was Thompson who was governor. But I was to all the meetings. I went to Springfield. I was there. I wasn't paid like they were paid. But, I guess they figured if you can't get rid of her, then you better.
Well, if you can't beat them and join them.
You better bring her into the.
I think the old Mayor Daley used to have a philosophy of if someone came in and criticized something, he made him chairman of the committee to deal with that problem, and that shut him up.
I should have asked to be the director of DCFS because as a mother of 7 kids and one who was severely mentally ill, not retarded, but mentally ill, these people who were running it didn't know hide nor hair what to do. And the last guy who was in there, he was shining shoes for, Blagojevich. Blagojevich. He was a shoe shiner for Blagojevich, and he said, "How would you like to be in DCFS? How would you like to be director?" And he was paying him $250,000 a year.
That's our problem, is the fact that you have too much political influence and
You
too
know,
much
if he wanted
protection.
someone to shine his shoes, I would have done that. I mean, and I certainly have a lot of.
I could tell you stories, but not on
the air.
On the air.
Okay.
but when you look at regulation,
Yeah.
the people who do the regulation should be like Caesar's wife, and it's not what happens.
Yeah.
The people who do the regulation should know the law. In Joanne's situation, in the closing argument, she was saying that they didn't cite the Supreme Court cases. We have a
wanna do
bunch of
that.
Supreme Court cases that are very, very clear, starting with Alvarez, which was the Lost Valor case, which pointed out that the court isn't going to look to see if things are true or false. They want you to be able to speak out. If you have contact-related stuff, they want you to speak out. And you go from case to case to case, and they're very, very clear. And when you have contact-related speech, where you have political speech, the sky's the limit.
Yeah.
You can say anything you want. If I want to suggest that all lawyers wear "I love boobies" T-shirts,
On a T-shirt, yeah.
I got a right to do that. And the fact that lawyers, can you imagine some of the lawyers, especially the bigger ones, wearing "I love booby" T-shirts?
Miriam Slow to this.
Yes.
the
Miriam
whole situation.
Solo, 400 pounds worth. Yeah, that would
The whole
Oh, you've seen her recently.
no, but has she not changed? Is it-
I think she's bigger.
oh my.
And she was standing in front of Judge Stewart, and you know they're not supposed to go behind the doors and talk to him. And she was making it so clear. She had to talk to her. It had to be now, and it had to be behind closed doors. And she got Judge Stewart to step off the bench and take her behind the doors. And that was 2 weeks ago.
That apparently is the type of clout she has. But the situation is, a judge has to be like Caesar's wife also. Can't give the impression to the public that there are problems. In Graylord, one of the judges that was picked out was David Shields. I think he was chief judge of the Chancery Division, and he was accused of taking a $200 bribe. So there were some of the upper level judges who were involved, but the real situation exists here is we have a major scandal going on.
It's big
right
time.
now.
That's right.
And it's going on in the probate
Yes.
court. And it's not everybody, but in many of the largest states, they're being ravaged. The people are being railroaded into guardianships. Do you know, if you looked at the summons that was used the time Mary Sykes was first brought into court in 2009, that summons didn't comply with the statute. The statute requires the warnings to be in bold, big letters, and the summons didn't have it. You couldn't comply with it if you wanted to, unless you drew your own summons.
And I've complained about that too, and they haven't done anything.
Well, I
But
got.
the ARDC told me don't complain.
Oh, okay.
And don't publish it on the blog, but I do it anyway.
Yeah, well,
And don't use the word
Corruption. Never use corruption.
No, don't
please.
use any word. They also told you not to use any word that has more than one syllable.
Well, that helps them.
Of course they can. That's their level.
One of my favorite words these days is miscreants. I refer.
Yes,
to,
miscreant. Boy, was that was so
you know
popular.
what? I know.
Yes. Yesterday it was so popular. They were all up in arms. They wanted to know, how did Joanne come by that name, that word? It's attorney Ken Ditkowsky. He did it.
Right. And
He did it.
He's so proud of
That's
Well,
right.
I'll perfectly take credit, but
I know.
I didn't invent the word.
Well, you didn't invent the word, but it fits the situation.
Well, you have to have a word to describe these people, and it's about the most descriptive word. If you take a look at some of the people who are guardian ad litem,
Yeah.
and you realize that these people are not people that are trustworthy.
Da-
But there are people who are guardian ad litems that are trustworthy.
Well, David-
But for instance, the Cynthia
Faranga.
Faranga,
Yeah, oh,
some of the things
Rolling
that
my
she's
eyes.
done in the Sykes case should be looked at. And there have been many members of the Sykes family who have complained to the ARDC and they do absolutely nothing. How can you take and ignore a drilling of a box and to non-inventory it?
And don't report it to
And
the court.
Don't report it to the court.
Yeah, good
How
for them.
how can they ignore that?
And then
And then go after Joanne for writing about it in the blog?
well, because they don't want to be noticed.
Well, it got even better
It
than
never
that.
happened as far as they're concerned.
No, it got even better than that. You know what happened was I served a subpoena and Gloria served a had earlier served a subpoena. You were fighting with U.S. Bank to get the information, and then I showed up at court with a subpoena, and at that time, Gloria had gotten the return finally. This is even funnier. So I told Gloria to bring in whatever documents she thought were important. She brought the drilling of the safe deposit box documents, the signature card with 3 names on it,
Oh my.
drilling of the secure safe deposit box with Carolyn's name on it, and Carolyn's name and address all over everything.
Including where Gloria lived. Gloria,
Yes.
Hey, Gloria doesn't live in Naperville, but
It
her
was-
name
Yeah,
was
right
on
on
there.
it.
And we understand that the bank had a video,
Sure, they have
and
videos.
that video has disappeared.
Oh,
Now,
naturally.
we have
Right.
2 guardian ad litem, just taking the Sykes case, because I know that one better than any of the other. We have 2 guardian ad litem. I wrote them what I call a safe harbor letter, and I said to them, just do your job, and I'll give you a release from any civil rights case
Okay.
that I might
File.
file. Totally disinterested. Did Faranga or Stern report this to the court? The record doesn't
You-
indicate it. Do they indicate that Carolyn has never denied the theft of this money? The allegation's been made. Nothing. That they haven't done. Mary went to the hospital, went to the emergency room 6 times. Is that reported to the court? If Faranga and Stern report that to the court,
This
it
sounds.
doesn't appear to be.
This sounds as the same situation with my mother. I mean,
It's every single situation you see that
this
these
is
people are
probate.
targeted.
This is in probate.
The people are targeted.
18th
And
floor.
we're calling them elder cleansing.
Yeah.
I'm trying to coin a word.
A
that
phrase.
will cover
Trafficking.
That will
Trafficking.
One of our
which will cover
Victims
the
calls it
elder
trafficking.
abuse, the financial exploitation, and finally the final solution, which is involuntary assisted suicide.
Yeah, they murdered my mother. They did. They murdered my
and
mother.
Lydia Tyler and
Oh,
Alice Gore.
Yes, they murdered
happened
my
to
mother.
all of
Yeah.
them. They were
And
starved.
it goes on, and worse yet, it appears to be going on in other states.
It's rampant.
And
Well-
it seems to be the easiest way to make money.
Well,
you
let's
get yourself
make-
appointed
let's
guardian and
make-
steal the money.
Let's make Illinois the poster child for the corruption
Okay,
state.
now let's talk about how you do that. We've written letters to everybody in sight. Hundreds,
You, Ken.
huh?
Yeah, Ken has.
Ken,
Yeah.
yeah.
And hundreds
And-
of emails.
Yeah.
The only one who's given us any cooperation is Kirk. And I don't know what he's done beyond report this to the FBI and report it various places. Senator Dirksen, who's running for re-election, Durbin.
Durbin.
He's running for I wrote him a letter, and I got back a response. He sent me a copy of a speech he wrote on Social Security. This is our representation.
Listen,
How do we get it?
He's been in
We need
office
people-
for 30 years. He doesn't care about you. You're one vote. He's looking for a multitude of votes.
Well,
And-
there are multiple people who are concerned
And he's been
about.
there for 30 years. Do you think he's going to change his colors?
Well, maybe it's too. Maybe we need term limits.
We absolutely do. I need to read this because I want the public to hear all these guys that were convicted, racketeering, conspiracy, corruption, extortion, mail fraud, and what they were sentenced to. And
Is this Graylord?
this is Graylord.
Those are just the judges.
These are the judges. Okay. Has everybody got their pen and paper ready? Because here we go. And you can always play this again. Just, check onto my YouTube thing and you can get the names on here. We've got John Devine, convicted, and jump in when you feel and explain who John Devine, convicted
I think he's a neighbor of mine.
October the 8th, 1984, on one racketeering conspiracy counts, 25 extortion counts, 21 mail fraud counts, sentenced December the 12th, 1984, to 15 years in prison. He's deceased, I'd imagine. Daniel Glacier, is it Glacier? Convicted October 4th, 1988, on one count racketeering conspiracy, sentenced November the 30th, 1988 to 6 years in prison and fined $50,000.
I'd like to know how many of these people were investigated by the ARDC. And these judges were.
That would be interesting.
None. There was
Can we?
none.
Of course, there were none, and they didn't investigate any lawyers either.
No, they didn't.
But they're out there investigating the people who are talking about them.
And wait, we make one more comment because I want to read the rest of these.
Right.
Please let the viewers know that the ARDC is a private.
Not private.
I mean, it's
They're paid by the state of Illinois, and we understand that you can't find any ethics.
Reporting.
Where,
Reporting.
where is that? Where? What
They
do you
don't
mean?
have
Well, they don't have ethics.
They don't have
that's one of
ethics,
the reasons.
period.
But they're not. But they're not
There's no-
reporting their ethics.
they're not ethical
they're
at all.
reporting their
Right.
financial situation.
They're not reporting there are no salaries published. Now, if you go to these websites, and I've researched it, just about every comptroller of every division in the state of Illinois has published salaries. All of the teachers have their salaries
yes.
published. All of the administrators have any kind of agency, they have those salaries published in one form or another. ARDC, I sent them a FOIA, Freedom of Information Act, for salaries.
Yeah.
They said they don't have to comply. I sent them a request that they did ethics reporting for every year that you have worked there, and that should be for every state agency with over 20 employees,
Yeah.
every state agency that regulates professional licenses,
Yeah.
for every state agency that has any managers or supervisors, right?
Okay.
In charge of state funds. You have to ethics report. And they wrote me back and said that they are exempt from that. I don't know why.
Why? How are they exempt?
I
Well, they're
don't know.
God.
Right.
They're God.
They
During
hold your-
during her hearing, they told her there's no such thing as Supreme Court cases regulating first.
That's right. We
First
don't have
Amendment
those.
rights?
Right. There is
What?
no First Amendment rights, Supreme Court cases that apply to lawyers. We can't use those. That was during the trial, and that's why when they handed me a packet of their cases, I just took them over and threw them in the garbage.
Oh, they like that.
I'm sorry.
That was
I'm like, I'm not carrying these home.
that was cool. That was cool.
I knew you'd vote for that one, right?
She was marvelous. She was just
Well,
Well,
marvelous.
you really can't take them seriously. They
No,
want
no.
respect.
They
But they
don't
They
deserve
don't
it.
understand respect
No.
is earned.
Yes, they don't.
And,
That's
and you
right.
can't have respect for people
Well, I would
who
like
don't
to
have
put their
respect
name
for the
on
rule
these
of law.
lists,
And Mr. Larkin does not have respect for the rule of law
He
when he
doesn't.
proceeds to ignore the Supreme Court cases and ignore the First Amendment to the Constitution. That's a core value.
It's a cardinal rule.
And ignore the hundreds of complaints that have been filed on these probate
Yeah.
cases.
The best. I know. I'm preempting.
That's
that
all right,
thing,
go ahead.
But the best one, the
I'm
one I
cool.
liked best was Gloria sent out an ARDC complaint against the miscreants.
Love that word.
Our favorite
word.
I'm going to
miscreants.
cast a bronze plaque and with that word and hand that to you.
And we got back a letter which said that Adam Stern had been appointed her guardian ad litem,
yes.
and therefore they weren't going to investigate Adam Stern.
They weren't going to investigate because Adam Stern was now in charge of Gloria, which is a veiled threat. We
Yeah.
need to bring these letters, and we need to publish them, while we're sitting here because they're so hilarious.
Adam Stern
Adam
was
Stern.
not appointed her guardian ad litem. And Adam Stern at the time, which the ARDC didn't bother to mention, had a very large federal tax lien imposed upon
Yeah.
him.
And he still does. I checked on it right
Does he
before the
still have-
trial. It has not been released. He still has a $60,000 tax lien and a about $500,000 mortgage on a fancy house in River Forest.
You know, I invited him on the program.
He won't come.
won't come.
And Cynthia Ferenga, and she told me that her mother was ill at the time, but she'd like to come. They're in Evanston. She lives in Evanston.
Well, give her another opportunity.
Absolutely.
Another opportunity.
Let me just put this out here.
Yeah.
Can I come at the same time?
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
We'll put chairs up in the peanut gallery here. That's not a problem.
Oh, well, and she cries when she
Yeah,
really
Cynthia Ferenga and Adam Stern, please be my guests on the program. I mean, I'm doing this publicly in front of millions because when this hits the YouTube, everybody and their uncle and cousin and whatever around the world will see it. But I invite you, please come on the program. And you don't have to talk about that case, just talk about what does a GAL do and why was it necessary for two? I mean, I have invited Miriam Solo to come here, but I don't have reinforced furniture, so I'm not sure that my set here, my design set, will hold it up.
Well,
But
you should invite Jerry Larkin too.
oh, Jerry Larkin, absolutely.
He needs to explain this.
He-
Ethics
What
reporting,
yes,
salary reporting.
wonderful.
They might have to take the Fifth Amendment.
Well, you know, this,
When you are asked to join in a call for an investigation
Yeah.
of a serious thing like this elder cleansing,
oh, this is serious.
and they're not interested or they won't do it, that raises a red flag. And I made the suggestion that don't believe a word Joanne says, don't believe a word I say, don't believe a word Gloria says, don't believe a word anybody says.
Just look
Come and
into it.
investigate
Just
everyone.
start from scratch, believe all of us are liars, and go from step one all the way up there.
Well,
Mr. Larkin was made that offer. He won't do it.
well,
And
no,
it tells you something.
I was waiting to see Jerry Larkin yesterday. I was so excited. I thought maybe I would see him. I mean, he could be there, but he's not going to come out in front. I mean,
I've seen his picture. I haven't seen anybody
oh,
there
he
except for some
looks the
flunkies.
same as he looked 35 years ago.
Well, I have never
35
seen
years ago. That made him 7 years old.
I don't think so. But let me continue this. All right, so we did John Devine, and he's deceased. Dan Glacier, and he got prison and fined $50,000. Martin Hogan, convicted. Oh, by the way, Martin, I need to say that. It was David Martin, who was the GAL, who was able to purchase a mansion in Malibu, California,
I understand.
on mother's money. And I welcome you to come on the program and tell me otherwise. And then Miriam Solo bought a house for cash, $580,000 cash. I mean, who has money to be able to do that? Is this pocket change with her? And she made money on my mother's estate, and we didn't have money to bury
Well,
her.
that's how come the $1.5 million disappeared.
And
Right.
and Lynn Kawamoto, the ex-judge, was feeding David Martin the money 2 years after Mother's passing. This just past February. She's only dead
in case
3
she
years.
was a zombie.
No, she couldn't have been a zombie. She was in the earth. He's speaking to her
Ghost.
her ghost.
Well,
Spirit.
that's worth something.
Yeah.
Oh, please! All right.
You know, this money, we're laughing about it, but this money is taxable money. How many billions of dollars is the United States government in debt? If the IRS collects this money, we have a 50% fraud penalty goes along with it. We have 25% interest on this money from the date, and of course, since they didn't report on their tax returns, no statute of
Well,
limitations.
David Martin was with his daughter in court with my mother. So there were two at the same time. We had the same thing that Gloria had.
And they only charged you one.
It's Melissa. No, they charged me two.
Well, what's funny is-
Melissa Martin and David Martin, father and daughter, and they charged. And they're communing with Mother's spirit after she's passed. Why were
Still
we?
billing.
Gee,
Still
that's very nice.
billing.
That's very nice of them.
Yeah, I know. Very nice,
Well,
yeah.
anyway, let me get back to this
Tell
guy.
your mom to quit talking to David Martin.
Well, she'll haunt him. You don't know my mother. She don't know my mother.
She probably is.
You don't know my
She's
mother.
haunting them through me because I'm blogging about them too.
Oh, good, good. This is Martin Hogan, convicted August 29th, 1988, on 1 racketeering bribery count, 1 racketeering conspiracy count, and 3 tax counts, sentenced October 18th, 1988, 10 years in prison, 5 years probation. Hello. Reginald Holzer, Judge Holzer.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, God.
Convicted February the
Famous him.
18th, 1986, on 1 count racketeering, bribery count, 3 extortion counts, and 23 mail fraud counts. Talk about mail fraud. Miriam Solo did mail fraud across state lines from Illinois to Florida. We have
Well,
that.
Mrs. Holzer came in to sell me insurance.
That's what she used to do.
That's right, yeah.
And let me mention, there are great books on these. You can get them off of Amazon, eBay. They're old. They're $5 a piece, and they go through all the details of how to do this racketeering and bribery. They're wonderful books.
And
Are they textbooks?
Are they
in,
textbooks?
They should be.
Okay.
in probate
Wait.
court school?
The mail fraud convictions were vacated on February the 19th, 1988, and the original sentence, May 21st, 1986, was 18 years in prison.
Wow.
And he was resentenced August the 2nd, 1988, to 13 years in prison. But he served his time. John Lurie, acquitted.
I know Judge Lurie.
Acquitted
was
August
in-
the 9th, 1984, 1 count of racketeering, conspiracy, and 3 counts of extortion. Illinois Court Commission suspended him from the bench for 1 month for failing to report the bribe, maybe they wanted in, who knows, attempt at engaging in ex parte conversations. Don't we know about those?
Ex-parte, all the time.
He was a judge who actually knew the law. He really was. It was kind of a
And he
pleasure to argue
got,
for
and he
him.
got caught. Yeah.
Huh?
He got caught. Then he got caught.
Richard,
Well, I never ran across any problems.
Richard Lefevre, convicted July 13th.
Traffic court.
1985, a 1 racketeering bribery count, 53 mail fraud counts. It sounds like Lake County. And 5 tax counts. Sentenced October 27th, 1985, 12 years in prison. Francis Mayer, acquitted October 4th, 1988. 1 count racketeering, bribery, and 1 count racketeering conspiracy. John McCullum pleaded guilty May 1, 1981 to 8 racketeering, conspiracy count, and 2 tax counts. Sentenced June 25th, 1987, 11 years in prison and 5 years probation. John McDonnell,
JJ.
indicted March 16th, 1988, 1 count racketeering, bribery, 2 counts extortion, 1 count obstruction of justice, 3 tax counts, convicted December the 20th, 1988 on the tax charges. Hung jury resulted in the other charges. Sentence pending. Other charges pending a retrial. We don't know what happened with that. Maybe he died in office. I don't know.
No.
Michael McNulty pleaded guilty December the 16th, 1987 to 3 tax counts. Sentenced February the 2nd, 1988 to 3 years in prison, 3 years probation, and 600 hours of community service, and fined $15,000. John Murphy, convicted June 14th, 1984, 1 on racketeering conspiracy count, 7 extortion counts, and 16 mail fraud counts. Sentenced August the 8th, 1984, to 10 years in prison and 5 years probation. Wayne Olson pleaded guilty July the 18th, 1985, 1 racketeering bribery count, 1 extortion count, and 1 mail fraud count. Sentenced March the 21st, 1986 to 12 years in prison, 5 years probation, and fined $35,000.
Wayne Olson, I knew. I had cases before him. He wasn't a bad judge.
Well, they got caught.
Until you get caught.
He got caught.
Some of these things that did occur. occurred in special situations. I remember once.
I've got 3 to go, and we only have about 5 minutes left. Let me just read these. John, I'm excited here. John Reynolds convicted May 7th, 1986, 1 racketeering, 1 bribery count, 1 racketeering conspiracy count, 6 extortion counts, 25 mail fraud counts, 3 tax counts. Sentenced May the 7th, 1986, 10 years in prison, fined $33,000, pleaded guilty April the 8th, 1988, to 2 perjury counts, sentenced June the 27th, 1988, to 2 years in prison and 2 years probation. Roger Seaman pleaded guilty December the 16th, 1987, to 2 mail fraud counts, 1 tax count, sentenced December the 7th, 1988, to 5 years in prison and 2 years probation. Raymond Soldini, here we go with Soldini, pleaded guilty January the 20th, 1987, to 1 racketeering conspiracy, count 1 tax count, sentenced May the 8th, 1987, to 8 years in prison, 5 years probation, and 750 hours of community service. Now, this is important. The quote of the week. Definition of money. Okay, ready?
Okay.
All right, definition of money. It can buy a house, but it can't buy a home. It can buy a bed, but not to sleep. It can buy a clock, but not time. It can buy you a book, but not knowledge. It can buy you a position, but not respect. It can buy you medicine, but not health. It can buy you blood, but not life. So you see, money isn't everything. And we thank attorney Ken Ditkowsky for this wonderful information, because he did the research on it. So whatever you want to say quickly. We got 3 minutes left. Go.
Well, some of the judges get a bad rep, and certain judges get pulled into particular situations. And as long as we have one political party in the state, in the county, we're going to have problems. In DuPage, where you have one political party, there's some problems over there. This is the reason we need term limits. This is the reason we need a real watchdog, not a lapdog that's going to cater to protecting people like the guardian ad litems in the Sykes case.
Terrible.
We have to have, right now, a real investigation. You know, we're now coming to a situation where we're going to have some type of universal health care, and the government's going to carry a large part of it. Government in general has a very high percentage of fraud. Healthcare has the highest percentage of fraud around. It's been estimated as high as 75%. So if you're going to deal with the disabled and deal with people who need help, you've got to have a situation where the costs are kept clear and the corruption is kept to a very, very low level.
Well, you know, that's easy to say, but very difficult to
extremely
difficult.
But you have to start weeding out people.
Well, we want these
who are
people
predators.
in orange jumpsuits with stainless steel, matching bracelets that go like that.
Well,
we want that.
Let's get people to write in.
That's right.
And create this situation.
And listen, watch the YouTube. Watch my YouTube. There's the information on the lower level there. And not only that, is if you're having problems with any of the court systems or anything, please let me know. We'll have you on the program. You can tell about your case. The idea is to come forth and not be intimidated. They feel they can intimidate you. Do not be intimidated. Hey, Lake County knows me well. What can I say? I didn't like the idea that they told me I have to do what I have to do. Why? To lie, to make an account for them? No. To allow someone mentally ill to make people's lives destructive and maybe cause tragedy and fatalities? No. I had to speak out, and I did. So there. Thank you for watching, and see you next week on North Shore Live, Cooper's Corner. Thank you. Thank you very much.